Welcome to the Business Spotlight interview series. And today we have Alan White, MD of Fresh Logistics, our honorable guest. What an inspirational story, Alan, you have. Um, Before the interview, we've been discussing about it. So, Alan, want to hear from you. If you could tell everyone, share about your journey. Who are you, about the business and your journey so far?
Yeah, sure. Good. Hi. In principle, Fresh Logistics has been going for the best part of 15 years, since 2008, January. So over 15 years now. Before that, when I had a real job, rather than starting my own business, I was on the board of some of the biggest European food businesses. And I was a supply chain director. So since then, I started my own business, and it's been very difficult, but it's all about staying in the fight. People talk about business and they talk about how they've won something. It's not about winning stuff. You don't win stuff. It's about a sort of a game theory. Either it's and a business is about staying infinite, not finite. And if you can stay infinite and stay in the fight, you can, win at business, or keep your business. So it's been going for 15 years. Started at zero. We turned over our maximum about £3 million. And yeah, we employ a good amount of people and have a large fleet. So that's, in a sort of egg cut, the Fresh Logistics business. The problem is I get very enthusiastic and boring about it. So you have to stop.
That shows your passion behind the business, and it clearly is 15 years in the business, and you started with nothing, and it's been a beautiful journey in terms of 3 million. I was looking at your USP, Alan. So your USP of Fresh Logistics is supplying what no one else can do or wants to do.
Yeah, so we have two rules, really. Main rules. We have lots of rules. There's two main rules. When a customer says no, that's really a request for more information. That's what that means. They just want more information. And then we never say no. We only ever say yes. Now, someone might say, can I have an aardvark and a zebra and all the animals in between, please? And we'll say, well, yes, you can, but you can't have that today. You can have it next week, the week after, and I can only supply A, B, and C. And so yes, you can. It's never no. There are our two main rules for customer service. Well, our third rule is our quality management system is our business plan.
Wonderful.
Good quality equals good business. That's it. As I say, you have to stop me from talking because I get quite boring.
No, I mean, we are here to learn from you, Alan, and this is great. So 3 main principles, and I think in all the 3, the common one is the customer and how important you make them feel. Yeah. So that seems to be the core value or the foundation of the growth. Is that?
Yeah, it's completely that. So so we have Ribena, Lucozade, and Satori. So they're one big Japanese company, and they're household brands. And they came to us a couple of years ago and asked us to deliver 1 million bottles of each by guerrilla marketing. And it's guerrilla not as in the 8, it's guerrilla as in warfare. So GUE. And the idea is that you don't get any permits or any licenses. And you literally stop off. 3 very attractive young ladies jump out the vehicle with some Ribena, Lucozade, and we delivered 1 million bottles to 50 cities within about 12 weeks. So and it switched on almost immediately. So that's our capability. We are a very capable business because we don't say no. So you have to deal with the problem. The easiest thing is to say no and go back to sleep.
And also, I think it defines the way you're adapting to the environment and the customer rather than the customer adapting to you, because, the business has to grow with the...
The old business model in the UK, used to be, if you think of it in this way, if I'm producing, I don't know, bread, I will produce 10,000 loaves, put it on the middle of the floor, and the customer will come and buy 10,000 loaves. Now, if they want 11,000, no, I never done that. Or if they want 9,000, I'd waste 1,000 loaves. Where now, what we do, we say to the customer, how many loaves do you want? And they want 12,000. So then we make 12,000. So they get 100% customer service.
Wonderful. Actually, which is very interesting, and it brings me to my next question, Alan. Most of the time when I'm speaking to business owners and say, okay, where are you currently? If you have to double scale up your business, within a very short span of time, are you able to do that? And most of them, do not have that. No, they can't do it. They can't scale up within a short span of time.
Well, that's going back to our USP. We never say no. We supply what other people cannot supply.
Yeah.
So in the UK, and there's multi-billion-pound logistics businesses, we are one of the biggest businesses in the UK that has a fleet of vehicles available. Wow. Now, all these massive multi-billion-pound businesses, they're all on contracts. They're all on agreement. Those vehicles are not available. Where you come to us and they are available. And that's one of our USPs as well, on a daily basis.
That's very interesting, Alan. And what's the key behind it? How are you able to do that?
Because it's our business model. It's about following natural systems. So there's a cement business in the United States, and they follow the ant principle, the natural system of ants, traveling around Chicago. And when someone wants cement, they call it, and the truck's just around the corner. Because it deliberately goes out with cement on to wait for the phone call. That's what we do. We have no contract, we have no agreements, we have no commission, no obligation. On a daily basis, it's a phone call. That's how we manage it. And it's people can't handle, a lot of businesses cannot handle the uncertainty on a daily basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if they're employed. If you run your own business, it's different for me. Because if I earn £1 million, I get the £1 million. So it's different for me. But as an employee who's on a set salary, you can't handle the uncertainty. And that's, again, one of our USPs, because we have our fleet and our vehicles and our storage, our warehousing available. So, yeah.
You know what, Alan, what you just said reminded me of, I heard a great speaker talking about use the difficulty, use the roadblock. And it seems that for businesses, the uncertainty is the roadblock, an obstacle, which you're using it and converting it into as an opportunity.
Completely. Well, it's
good.
The same old thing, isn't it? Is the glass half full or is it half empty?
Absolutely.
Where there's trepidation, there is opportunity. Where there is confusion, there is opportunity. Where there is complexity, there is opportunity. And it's about being the smartest person in the room and identifying that opportunity. And then even harder is executing to realise that opportunity, make it happen, bring it to market. And if you can do that, why should you not, be a very, very, rich person?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alan, brings me to the next question. We're talking about such great things, growth in the business, from where you started looking at a journey. If you have to look back and reflect on, what do you attribute your growth to?
I believe being adaptive to the market and to market trends. And we do that deliberately. We deliberately position ourselves in the industry to be able to take advantage of, opportunities. We publicly put ourselves out there. People say, "Oh, you're so lucky." It's funny. The harder I work, the luckier I get. Is there some sort of correlation? So it's about working hard. It's about keeping your eye on the market and being smart enough to understand the trends and the buckles and the difficulty, and being flexible enough to, if you like, capitalize on any trends and opportunities. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, result is an outcome. So you keep doing consistent things, and whether it is, I strongly believe it's not the luck. I mean, you create your future, you create your destiny by doing the consistent things.
It was a joke.
Yeah.
The harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So,
And there's a lot
you
of
know,
hard work behind that
yeah.
luck. Moving on to the next one, Alan. You've been in the business for the last 15 years now with Fresh Logistics. Have taken the business from zero to almost 3 million now. Yeah. What has been your learnings as an employer in that journey?
So I've learned that it doesn't matter how much you pay people. It's actually quite irrelevant. People use the terminology, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. That's not true. I was the highest payer for drivers in the UK, and I still got monkeys. So I've now gone back to normal, to like the average higher quartile.
Yeah.
And I have the same drivers who don't turn up to work, who are sick, who don't do their job properly. It just happens. It's people. And the other thing I've learned is recruit the attitude, train the skill.
Love
So
that.
get
Love
people
it,
the
love
right attitude
it.
for your business, and get the business fit culturally. So we don't really have meetings in my business. I don't believe in meetings. I don't think we have one in the morning just so everybody can talk, and we call it a prayer meeting. And you have 5 minutes, and there is no talking about retrospective. You're not allowed to talk about what happened yesterday, because you can't change it. Most meetings talk about what happened yesterday. Make no influence on it whatsoever. And then 95% about retrospective, so what happened previously and whose fault it was. And then the next 5% is about what's happening today. Well, we're completely the other way. We have 5% about yesterday, and 95% what's happening now, next week, and so on.
Wonderful.
So they're the sort of things that I've learned. We also don't have budgets in this business, no budgets whatsoever. Because if you ask someone to get you 10, they'll give you 10. They could have given you 15, but they'll give you 11 next year, 12 the year after, 13 the year after. Well, I want 15 now, So if we don't have budgets, I've found that really does promote people and excellence. The other thing we focus on, most businesses don't talk about profit. Turnover's vanity. Profit is vanity, and costs are profanity. So no one wants to talk about profit. They talk about how much it costs to serve and turnover. We don't talk about profit. I don't care how much. That's vanity, isn't it? Turnover. So I don't care. I care about profit.
Wow, I am glad to hear that, and that's music to my ears, Alan, because my expertise is numbers, and I often, when I'm helping businesses grow, and we often discuss about the fact that revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is the king. I mean, if you have made the profit and it's not in your bank account, doesn't matter.
I lecture every now and again at the university, and I talk about businesses fail because of the lack of profit. Ultimately, it's down to that. Ultimately, there's loads of cash flow and this. Yes, I understand that, but it's about profit. It's about making a profit. And big businesses don't know how much they make. And I know that because I've been on the board. They have no idea. Wow. I mean, we've had Tesco's who recently overstated by £300 million their profit. They have no idea how much money they're making. None of them.
And then that brings me to the thought process that if you're not measuring it, how will you grow it? What gets measured gets managed.
Well, maybe. I get that, and that's a common saying. If you can't measure it, how can you manage it? I get that. But then there's another saying about managing by walking around. I wrote a paper, MBWA, and by keeping your ear on the phone, listening to people, listening to the people who are working on the floor, that is a measure that is never really taken in by MDs and managers and so on and so forth. So how do they manage it? Well, they seem to somehow. So I sort of agree with what you're saying, but there's lots of different measures that can sometimes, you don't necessarily have to measure one thing because you only get a one-dimensional understanding. You've got to have several measures that create this type of ambience of the measure, so you understand it in depth. Otherwise, the biggest problem you have is trying to understand that. So let me give you an example. If there's a pick rate in a warehouse, and this guy picks 10,000 units, and the guy next door only picks 100, who's the best? Well, the guy with 10,000. But
That's
one
not
is picking
necessary.
one is picking on a forklift by the pallet,
Yeah.
and the one who's picked 100 has spent all day running around trying to get those 100 boxes. But unless you understand the ambience of the measurement, it's pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
Pointless.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I think, when you're talking about it, and the one thing which came into my mind is the dashboards. You're sitting in the car and imagine you do not have that fuel one, or if you have the fuel, you don't have the speed. So, it's like having that dashboard in front of the eyes of a business owner too, because every number gives you different, gives you different things. So knowing your numbers is the key. I mean, knowing all your numbers is the key.
I think it's understanding them intimately. Because you say to an MD, well, how did you calculate your profit? And he'll say, well, it's what I charged to what it cost me. Oh, well, hang on. What about your tax benefit you just received? And what about your, you've deferred some other payments? Oh, I didn't know about that. Well, you don't understand your business.
Yeah.
No?
I have so many stories to share that, because we do that day in, day out. But that's a wonderful way. And I'm glad you're saying all of that, because I'm on the other side of the fence, and I keep hearing this, and that's about helping them growing, coaching them through that journey. But Alan, coming back to you as a business owner, when I often talk to businesses and we discuss about their business challenges, so most of the challenges, I would say, fall in either of the three categories, whether it's time, it's team, it's money. So I call it TTM. So if you look at Fresh Logistics, and if you look at where you want to be, your vision, where do you see the challenge currently?
Well, I think there's one more category, and that's called innovation. And
like
that is where we are strong, or I am strong. So we've innovated a market here, transferring from one restaurant to another restaurant. We call it store transfer. And we do it for KFC, we do it for McDonald's, we do it for Nando's.
Wonderful.
And it's a multi-million-pound business. And we are the people. I created that industry. And we're just creating another industry in London for restaurants to turn their store area into profit centres. So they have a cost centre, which is their stores. Well, if we can create a warehouse in London and they can get delivered in, we can, do all the quality measurements, all the counting and all that lot, and then we can deliver twice a day, 3 times a day in London. And therefore you don't need a storeroom. Therefore you can create an extra 20 seats. So, but we're just starting on that. Or I'm just writing some blogs and papers for that to present to the restaurant sort of areas. So, I think innovation is quite an important thing, but it's part of those 3 as well, isn't it? Have you got time to do that? Have you got the appetite, the tenacity? It's all that type of stuff. And what's the outcome? And
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
there's those things.
So, you touched base about the team, when
Sorry, say again.
when we discussed about your learnings, you mentioned about the team, so how do you, what advice would you have for the business owners out there to get those, get a dream team, in the sense, create a positive environment for them to be there? And what you just shared, you were at the highest paying masters and still they were not working. But, now also, so what is that key there when it comes to team?
Well, I think it's changed dramatically since COVID.
Hmm.
People no longer, they're very nomadic now, and they quite like being at home. And it's quite tricky to get people back into work. It's called hybrid working now. Basically means it's called shirking from home, and it's very difficult to recruit a team because no one will be as good in your business as you are. No one will care as much as you care, and what I've found, we're very relaxed here. We're all rugby players, sports players, and we have that sort of outlook and that attitude. We're professional, but we're very relaxed. So people don't have to take a half day off if they want to go and see the activity play of their child at school. You don't take half day. You can have the afternoon off. You take your kids to the dentist. That's fine. Just take the time off. We're very casual in that way, but we still struggle immensely to recruit the right people. It's very easy to recruit the people, but it's recruiting the right people. And the only way you find out is once you've recruited them, and then they sit down and they say that they're the most brilliant person in the world, and very quickly they're found out. There is no shadows to hide in fresh logistics. You get found out very quickly. We're a small, concise business.
Absolutely.
And if we find it that people just lie in their interview, and they just lie. They say, I like helping old ladies across the road and reading poetry and all this lot, and then it's completely untrue. And you're like, why did you waste everybody's time? What is it? So it's very difficult. We have a saying in Fresh that we have to kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince.
Love that. I love that, Alan. You have a great way of explaining things. Really love. I've heard this a lot of time, but the frog analogy is very, very good. I'm gonna keep that from you. Yeah, I'm gonna take
You're
that
welcome.
from you. But I think that's where the learning came, and you were spot on in the sense that hire people for the attitude. Skills are transferable.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Alan, being the MD of French Logistics, how do you balance your personal time, managing everything, work, home?
Well, it's really difficult now because I'm disabled. I can't really get out that much. I can't just jump in the car and off I go. It's like having a young child. Being disabled, you have to take a bag and you have to take, a change and this and that. Honestly, when I don't know if you know, but if you have a young child, say 2 years old or whatever, you can't just go out. You've got to take like milk and some food and a change, and it's like a half-hour ordeal trying to prepare to go out and be spontaneous. So it's principally the same now. So I do try and segregate the difference between work and not, and personal life. And it works mostly. I mean, there's obviously the bleed over because sometimes it's busy and there's stuff going on and it needs your attention. But generally, we're pretty good at it. We try and make the break. And everybody works for each other. I have a duty manager on call 24/7, and he takes responsibility. He's a decision-making manager, which is important. He's empowered to make decisions. The only thing I'll get in trouble for is not making a decision. I don't care what the decision is, because you only regret the things you don't do.
Exactly.
And so he's got to make a decision. It's the law.
Lovely.
So yeah, that's the principle, and that does, in some way, give you a little bit of a separation.
I love that. But Alan, you just mentioned about you being disabled, and
Yeah.
I know we have touched this part before the interview. Not the listeners would know that, but what an inspiration. I mean, as per the stats,
You're making me
96.
blush.
Say that again. Sorry, I missed
You're
that.
making me blush.
Not
Make me
really, but
blush. Yeah.
I love that if it's that, but truly, it's like 96% of businesses they close within the first 10 years. Yeah. And I'm sure, I mean, it wouldn't have been a easy journey. Life is a trade-off. But where are you? Hats off. You want to share anything about that? Any reflections?
Well, when I done my masters at business, I wrote a paper about corporate failure, and 95% of businesses within 20 years fail. 5% succeed. Yet 95% of the literature throughout the world is about success, and 5% is about failure. Just seems quite ironic, really. And it's a double-edged sword. If you understand how you fail and what are the trajectories and what are the signs, you can be more successful. So it's again looking at it in a different way and understanding your enemy, without getting all Sin Tzu and the art of war and that type of stuff. But if you can understand what makes you fail or makes a business fail and see the signs, you can therefore, create trajectories and excursions from that. So, as I say, being disabled and being a managing director of a successful business, a group of companies, it's very difficult because there's people don't mean to do it. I mean, I think I'd done it when I was an able body. For most of my life, I've been 2 arms, 2 legs, perfectly fit and healthy playing rugby. And now I'm not. I've got 1 arm. I'm sat in a wheelchair a lot of the time. Haven't run for 5 years. Can just about walk. And you are the biggest person in the room when you're a rugby player. Especially, I played internationally. I played for Wasps, which is like a massive team. And now I can just about walk to the stand, and I sit in the disabled area in the rugby ground to watch the game. I mean, it's such a fall from grace. And people don't mean to be condescending. But when you're sat in a wheelchair, people talk over your head and saying, and how is he? Is he okay? Talking to my partner, Jane. And I'm like, I'm sitting here,
You talk
I'm here.
to me.
But they don't mean it. They mean nothing by it, and they hold doors open for you. You go to pick a cup up, they'll go and pick your cup up for you, and they're being helpful. But it's like, just leave it alone. Let me do it, So that's the same in a meeting. I'm trying to pour a glass of water, and people are leaning over, picking the glass up, and and there's a different dynamic. It's sort of, and being disabled, you're supposed to be slightly downtrodden because you're disabled. Inevitably, most disabled people have social security, don't have a lot of money, they have confidence issues and, all this type of stuff. And that is a stereotype. And people don't mean it. People just don't. But that's what happens. So, yeah, the dynamics have changed being an MD of a large business now. They almost look at me now thinking, well, how did you do that?
And that is the reason why I said that's such an inspiration. I mean, well done, Alan. Hats off to you, honestly. Well done.
Yeah, it's because I'm too belligerent. I'm too annoying to give up. That's the problem.
And I mean, that's probably, I'm gonna note that probably that is, and I think before the interview we discussed about it. I think it's your resilience. Yeah, that.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Converted the odds, whatever it is. I mean, nothing's gonna stop you using your obstacles.
No, well, as I said to you previously, you have a choice. You sit in the corner, roll up in a ball and cry your eyes out, or you dust yourself off, get up and get on with it.
Lovely, lovely. So, Alan, What's the vision for Fresh Logistics? Where do you see Fresh Logistics in the next 5 years?
I would like us to get back, not only get back to how we were pre-COVID, making lots of money and lots of business and so on and so forth, but I'm looking at diversification. Where else can we go? And one of them is be the first in the UK, or if not Europe and the world, but creating a heavy goods vehicle that is adapted for disabled people. So you can actually have disabled drivers making deliveries, which opens up the market enormously. And I don't know if you know, but in the UK and Europe, there is a massive shortage of drivers, massive, 100,000 in the UK alone. So you can open up employment to disabled people, fulfill a market, an industry that has a massive shortage, and I'll probably make a pot of cash at it as well, hopefully.
That's what I called a win-win. You win, the employees win, and the community wins. So it is a win-win-win.
They are the only, if you like, negotiations available in modern day. I think all this I win, you lose is, well, it's for the legal profession, isn't it? We'll let them deal with all that, because they're so Jurassic and antiquated, they don't know the difference. But in modern business, if everybody wins, everybody wins. Exactly. Everyone's happy.
And to be honest, there is a lot for everyone. We believe in abundance. So yeah, if everyone can win, why not be? So Alan, it was lovely speaking to you. To end this, I'm going to ask you the last question, which is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
It's going to sound really pessimistic, but don't trust anyone. Don't rely on anyone, despite what they say. Because people will say to you, oh, if you start your own business, I'll get you loads of work. My company does this and I'll be able to get you all the work. They don't. It doesn't happen. Ignore it. Just say, oh, thanks ever so much, and walk on. Never burn a bridge. Don't burn your bridges. You don't have to be horrible. You can. Being a businessman does not mean you have to be, I don't know, ice-hearted and cold and nasty and cunning and deceitful and all this type of stuff. You can be a nice person and earn profit. You don't have to be that person. Don't lose faith in humanity, because you will get let down a lot. People making promises, and people you think you're really close to and you understand and they'll let you down. I promise you, because it's work. The only reason they're there is because you're paying them. They may like it, and it may be a bit of a laugh, and I quite like it. You're like family, but it's the money. As soon as you stop paying them, you won't see them again. So just remember that every time you're making that transaction, just think to yourself, well, if I wasn't paying this man, this woman, they wouldn't be here. I'll give you a classic example. During COVID, a woman who worked for me, who was a driver, her husband got cancer, or was revealed that had cancer. So I paid her for 18 months because I did not want to jeopardise her husband's life by this female employee, by catching COVID, going home and killing her husband. So I paid her for 18 months. It cost me £40,000. She took me to court for unfair dismissal afterwards. So there you are. That's astounding, isn't it? And that's happened to me a few times. And you just think, do not lose your faith in humanity. Not everybody is like that. You meet these charlatans. Yeah. And that's what happens, these confidence tricksters. So, keep it professional. Don't manage by personality. Because once they don't like you, what do you do then? You must manage by process and procedure. So, that would be the sort of advice I'd tell me.
Love that. Love that, Alan. It was such a lovely having you part of the interview. And we hope people who are listening to you get inspiration to start their own business.
Well,
thank you so much.